Adesanya versus Jon Jones is a match that still exists in the mind of Coach Eugene Bareman. That's Adesanya's coach. But not in the mind of Daniel Cormier. Daniel Cormier's opinion with anything involving Jon Jones and anything involving light heavyweight is well earned. But Daniel spoke up and said, no, that fight's gone. And about all Daniel said on it. Coach Bareman spoke up and he said, not so fast. Jon Jones is looking for a money fight. Izzy's the biggest star, biggest guy he can get a hold of. We'll see what the future brings. Timeout, let me weigh in. So Daniel's perspective is definitely today's perspective. Absolutely. That's a checkers player. That's right now, next move. But Daniel's spot on. Yeah. That lost a little bit of luster. And frankly, even if Adesanya would have got his hand raised, and if you guys remember that fight with Blachowicz, but if you remember what you were thinking and feeling, we did not know who was going to win that fight until Bruce Buffer announced it. And it turns out those cards weren't even close. But for that moment when the fight was over, it was very clear that Jan had won 2 rounds. But we were sitting back scratching your head. Well, did Izzy bank the first 3? Did he? Turned out he did not. But I only share that with you because if Adesanya would have got his hand raised, you still have a big problem putting Jones and Adesanya together next. It was one of those things where there was no scenario based on what we saw Saturday that was going to draw you right into the same buildup and hype of Adesanya versus Jones. It was just one of those things, right? Hey, there's roadblocks. Something gets in the way. This is a real thing. When Dana's talking about it for this weekend. Dana's talking about it right now for Edwards versus Muhammad, saying Edwards will get a title opportunity if he mauls Muhammad. Man, this can't be a close fight. He's got to come out. He's got to show his dominance. He's got to show he's got no ring rust. Been out of the ring for a period of time. He's got to show he can. Championship rounds, championship quality, main event spot. He's got to show this, but if he does, I'll give him a title fight. Well, that's very consistent. Dana's done that a number of times. That's very consistent, but I bring that to you because had Adesanya beaten Blachowicz, first off, the Jones-Adesanya, right, it's not totally going to work. It's not totally going to work based on that performance. Okay, no problem. Let's get one in between it, revisit it. At the same time, had Adesanya beaten Blachowicz, there would probably be a little bit stronger argument that we need to see Adesanya versus Blachowicz, part 2. Now, I bring this to you because there are ways to get Adesanya and Jones together that a simple-minded checkers approach just won't get you to. I'll give you one right here. I'll give you one right here that you never would have considered, which would be the negative route, which is Jon Jones moves up to heavyweight and gets his ass whipped. Jon Jones and gets his ass whipped and you know what, I'll return down here. Adesanya just got beat. He comes back up here. Let's go ahead and take care of this. Grudge match style. Okay. But that all of a sudden would recaptivate you and reinterest you in ways that you had not imagined. And Jon Jones is one of these athletes. It's very tough to use logic with Jon Jones. He will succeed in spite of, and then fill in the blank. He is a rare talent. Jon Jones has taken the last 6 months off or even 8 months off to go and lift weights as a way to build into this class. And I watched him lifting yesterday, Instagram. And he had the bar, he's on a squat rack, he had the bar and he was crossing up like this and then standing up and putting it down. And oh my, he had so much damn weight on this bar. And go, man, this guy is freaking strong. Not to mention to have this kind of strength with long legs. It's a whole nother thing. Man, Jon is strong. There is nothing about that movement, and I mean nothing, that resembles a technique I've ever seen done in the octagon by Jon or anybody else. It is extremely unfunctional strength that I continue to see him working on. And Jon has defied the odds. And it didn't matter. A few things that'll age you real fast is lawsuits, booze, and cocaine. Any one of those 3. He's got all 3 of them. That guy's still beating people. It's one of these things where it works until it doesn't work. And I don't know if I've seen anything in Jon's career. And again, lawsuits and the drugs and the booze, which is public. I'm not burying Jon, right? These are public things, part of his story. Suspensions that is quite as damning in my eyes as removing yourself from a sport while trying to change your physiology while 33 years old. He might be 34 years old. That's not young. When Randy Couture started this sport and had headlines everywhere and people were referring to him as grandpa, he was 34 years old. He was 34 years old. Now, I realize some guys have come along since and competed in that 34, that 36. I realize Blachowicz is 38. Glover Teixeira going on 41. I realize that things are pushing and the sport's getting to a better place. I'm just reminding you that there was a time, and it wasn't all that long ago, when 34 was old. I think John's 34. He's about to be 34. I'm really close on that. He's removed himself from the sport and he's doing an experiment. As Adesanya said, dare to be great. John is daring to be great. Let's give him a chance. Let's give him a chance. He has showed us stuff before that's defied logic, and he might be doing it now. I may be sitting here telling you about the lifts that I'm watching him do in conjunction with all the other lifts that I've had to watch him do over the last 9 months, because the only entertainment you can get out of Jon Jones, aside from when he's rigging a camera to make it look like he's running off a burglar or breaking up hoodlums downtown, there's nothing functional about it. The coach that's putting him through it is nothing MMA, wrestling, or boxing about it. I don't know how that's going to translate, but John always seems to know something that we don't, right? I'm not ready to pass judgment on this guy. He's just been right too many times. He's been right too many times when he should be wrong. But for me, it's a very damning situation to remove yourself at that age, change weight classes, and change your physiology. It's a great experiment. We're all going to enjoy it together, but as you're talking about getting John and Izzy together, you don't know what's going to happen. Everything moves so quickly.